As women, we are natural mystics, innately spiritual, in tune with rhythms of the universe, the sun and the moon, and moving through life's journey in sacred cycles that bless us at every turn. We know so little about our circle of life, about ourselves, about our rites of passage and our blessings, because we have been prejudiced by a media, a society, a history that has not honored the true potential of a woman and her authentic voice. We need a social movement of the heart that honors the feminine in all of us and beckons us to bring balance to a troubled world. I'm Audrey Hope. Please join me on this next episode of Real Women for honoring the sacred gifts of womanhood. My special guest is Joan Borysenko, who will share with me and celebrate with me the core essence of being a woman and our gifts to balance logic of the mind with wisdom of the heart. The true journey of a woman's life is only now being told, a framework that is all her own and not based on a history, a media, or culture that has prejudiced us and has not honored our true spiritual gifts. Every cycle of a woman's life, our rites of passages, are opportunities and growths and blessings. And when a woman is honored, she can share her gifts of empathy, compassion, and wisdom of the heart. I'm Audrey Hope, and this is Real Women. And today we are honoring the sacred gifts of womanhood. And who better to do that than Joan Borysenko, role model, respected scientist, respected therapist, a pioneer in mind-body medicine and women's health. And she has authored so many books.
Oh, hi.
Such an honor to have you here.
It's an honor to be here with you.
Thank you for saying so.
It is.
And you bring such a special blend of spirituality and science, which is such a rare thing, Joan. It really is. So I thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. That's my gift, and that's what I think my whole purpose in life is to braid those three strands of psychology and the stories of our life with spirituality and with science. It's so exciting when we put it into that kind of context in the body and in the mind.
Yeah, and we need that too.
Yes.
Because our story, the woman's story, has been so prejudiced, so full of myth, so full of negative stuff. How has science restored women as being partners in evolution?
Well, you know, one of the things is important to look at is that as women, particularly in the last generation, many of us have tried to become men. You know, we've put on suits, we've gone to work, we've in a way deep-sixed our femininity, thinking that the way to equality was to be like a man. So the feminine in women has really not expressed itself so well. And I think we're at a time when both the feminine in men and in women is re-expressing. And that's also coming up through science. Because science for a while was of the mind, well, let's try to make the men and women in a certain way equal after years and years of putting men above. Aristotle said so long ago, said, woman is an unfinished man left standing on a lower step in the scale of development.
And we have imperfect seed.
That's right, we have imperfect seed. And the Yellow Emperor's Classic on Internal Medicine, which is thousands of years old and was originally one of the first texts I went to, said, you know, women mature in 7-year cycles. At 7, your second teeth come in. At 14, you menstruate. At 21, you're fully formed. At 28, the muscles are flourishing and you're at your peak. And then by 35, your hair is turning white. At 42, your arteries are hardened. At 49, you're menopausal. And then he said, it's a rapid downhill descent to death. And
oh God,
now that is bad enough. But he said, men mature in 8-year cycles, and they continue to mature in wisdom until they die. So that was the old part. And then we went through the science where they said, well, you know, men and women really are the same. And we're not the same. We shouldn't be the same. We're complementary. We need that balance of the masculine and the feminine within each of us, whether we're men or women. And then the complementarity of men and women. So science is now saying, you know, we are not two species, we are two genders, but there are gender differences that show up in the very beginning as our brains begin to develop. For example, all little kids are right brain dominant, which is why they live in the world of magic. They live in the world of metaphor. They live in this place where they seem to be really close to the world of spirit. They kind of dwell at the gateway. And so both have that. And yet right brain function is distinctly different in little boys and little girls. Right brain function in little girls specializes so that we can recognize the emotion in other people's faces.
Fascinating.
And in little boys, it's specialized particularly for spatial orientation, so we know what's next to what, how to put the cars, the trucks. I raised 2 little boys, so I'm really very well aware of that difference. And I raised a stepdaughter. And I could see there was definitely a difference in the way that they did it. And so little girls become emotionally attuned and adept at an extremely young age, have that ability to put themselves in other people's places. And of course, when we're little, we always tell the truth. So I'll give you a quick anecdote, one of my favorites. So I got divorced several years ago, about 4 years ago, a typical midlife passage, by the way, for many women. Because in midlife, one of the gifts is we tend to come to this place where we say, what matters, what's the meaning of success, what do I want in my life, and we try to look at our lives and say, am I where I want to be, and clarify our values, and then we make those shifts. So for me, a divorce was actually part of that. And I'm talking to my friends. You know how we do as women. We share our stories. That's a big part of women's spirituality.
I know that.
We share our stories. I'm doing it on the phone ad nauseum, but you know, I have patient friends.
What would happen if we didn't tell the
That's
stories?
right. What would happen? And there's an eavesdropper on the other end of the phone, a 6-year-old girl. I didn't know. For an hour, she was listening while I talked to her mother. At the end of it, she says, Joan, this is Bree. I have a few questions for you. Now, this amazed me, that the personal interaction is so interesting to a young girl child that she'll sit there quiet as a mouse for that period of time. And then she says to me, you told my mom why you're getting divorced, but she said, you know, you must have left something out because it didn't make that much sense to me.
I see.
So, you know, the emperor has no clothes. She picked up cues in what I said and what I didn't say, because the intuition is also there as a child. It's there. And I had to speak further to what was there. Then she says to me, so you're dating a new guy? I said, yes, Bree. She says, you won't like this, but I think it's too soon.
That's so cool.
And it's interesting because my women friends were probably dying to say that. But you see, we haven't lost voices yet at that age.
Right, so we start off being
That's
very
right.
truthful, very optimistic.
Truthful, optimistic, emotionally wise, and it gets deep-sixed by the time we turn really 11 or 12. At just that time that our bodies are entering the change into womanhood. And then we have this societal thing, which all of a sudden says, don't tell the truth. Do what you need in order to be liked by other people, particularly by men. So be silent, don't be too smart. Men don't like women who are smarter than themselves. And girls begin to lose themselves. They lose their voice. And this is so much the work of Carol Gilligan and the women at the Stone Center for Women's Research at Wellesley. Is there a way that we can raise our teenagers not to lose their voice? And the thing about losing the voice, Audrey, is that it comes right at a time when our intuition takes a big jump up, which it does throughout the life cycle. So as we enter the second 7-year, life cycle, 0 to 7, 7 to 14, at that, like 14 cusp, we've started to menstruate generally. And the rhythm of the hormones is such that once a month we have something billed by the media as PMS. This is really bad. This is when women should be locked away because, I don't know if I can say the B word on television, but everybody knows what I mean. And we get negative. And what science has shown, this is such an interesting study. You can give words to a woman through one ear or the other. And the words are projected contralaterally to the opposite side of the brain. That's why hearing is wired. And it turns out, number one, we hear more negative words premenstrually than the rest of the month. But it also turns out that right brain function is jacked way up. And the authors of this study said, We only report what's negative, like the negative words, without reporting what's positive. The increase in intuition, holistic thinking, creativity, seeing the interconnectedness and interdependence of things. And if you see the bigger picture, you can say, whatever I've been in denial of all month long, those things that have been eating at me but I've been shoving under the rug, come up in spades at this time, right before my period, because it's traditionally the time of healing, when we're supposed to put everything right and come back into right relationship with ourselves, with our families, with our work, with our tribe. And that's why in indigenous cultures we used to go off to the moon lodge.
Right, moon huts,
Yeah,
and we used to convene together.
Yes, we'd come together.
And the Native Americans knew that this was a time of expanded energy for women.
That's right. And that if we came together, you see, there's healing and wisdom that's in groups. When I share my dreams with you, I understand them in a way that I would never understand just alone. Right. If I share, you know, oh, this bad thing's happening in my life, you can give me the courage to change it or expand my perspective so it gets more space.